Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. And we have Kelly Cook here with us today, coming off of a three-part series we just did on open houses. So, Kelly, any last words on open houses? If somebody watched through all three parts of that, give me one sentence that they need to remember from that whole part that we went on. What should they remember?
Oh man, I would say two words: systems, predictability, or predictable outcome, right? And you can't have it if you wing it every time, and it's different. The process is different every time someone walks in the door. You just can't.
You can't have you. How do you even judge what you did wrong or what you could do better if you're doing a different experiment every time, right?
Yep,
so,
that's right.
Which, I mean, systems, predictability, that is something that we talk about all the time. Kelly has a system for pretty much everything, so that he can, run his business in a predictable way and not constantly be wondering what's the next thing I got to do, right? So systems, make sure you go back and listen to that if you have not already. Today, we're going to switch gears a little bit out of the open house, selling real estate game. This is more on the investing in real estate side, which we've talked about quite a bit on how to figure out what's a good investment, how to, why you should invest. We've gone in we have a lot of episodes on that. So if you haven't gotten started, go back and listen to those. But if you've taken some of that to heart and have started investing, here's kind of the next step. You've got it. Yep. Now, how do you protect it, right? And Kelly was saying this is something that is not talked about nearly enough. So we want to shed some light on this. No legal advice here. Disclaimer.
Exactly.
No legal advice, but some wisdom from somebody who's been through it. So Kelly, let's jump into it. How do you protect your assets?
Yes. Okay. This is again, like you just really set this up well here, Elizabeth. So we're going to dive into this and kind of jump around a little bit, but the reality is that a lot of people talk about how you obtain, get more, which is good. You should be on that train, in my opinion, right? Especially if you're in real estate. If you're already a realtor, why are you not investing in things that you know? And real estate should be what you know, right? So big fan of that. There's so much that goes into the positives of investing in real estate, which we're not going to cover today because that's not what this is about. Go back and watch the previous episodes on that. We'll have another one on that in the future as well. But this is asset protection. Okay. Now you have the asset. How do you protect it? How do you keep it? And I don't think it's talked about enough. Again, not legal advice by any stretch of the imagination, just some opinions on maybe what's working for myself and or working from others that I know are doing something in the same realm, right? So let me tell you a story real quick. I own a property. And the tenant was actually responsible for landscaping, lawn care, and they were doing they're mowing the yard. Okay. Now this particular property was actually out of state. Okay. From where I live here in Arizona, and they were mowing the yard and doing their thing. And he had his headphones in, and over the hill, there's a little small hill with a sidewalk that this property sits towards the middle bottom of. And as he was making his walk down the row mowing the grass, he gets to the sidewalk. When you get to the sidewalk, what do? You turn it around. Right?
I would not. I've never mowed a lawn, so I'm like, I don't know. What do you do?
And listen, for most of us in Arizona, you guys don't know what that is either, right? But there's not a ton of real grass around. But you turn around and go down the next row. Well, as he gets to the sidewalk to turn around, there's these couple of teenagers on bicycles coming over the hill as fast as they possibly can go. I mean, fast. And they can't get out of the way fast enough as they come right over the hill. And the tenant is in the sidewalk turning his lawnmower around. Well, there's a collision. Collision happens. I'm not even aware of this because the tenant never told me anything about this. And out of the blue, I get a letter from a law firm, and the teenager got hurt his shoulder somehow. I don't know if it's separated shoulder, collarbone, something, right? And now they were looking to sue the owner of the property for negligence because he got hurt on my property. What do you do? Okay, well,
Where is the negligence in that?
it's unbelievable. The point is, literally, the guy was mowing his yard, and and they came flying over the hill, and they claimed that he specifically targeted them when they were coming over the hill by sticking his butt out into the sidewalk area. I mean, it's just it's absurd. It's literally absurd. So, but guess what I have to do? I have to hire an attorney to respond to it and deal with it and the pain and joys of all of that, right? Some of that you can't get around because in America you can sue anybody for anything. It doesn't matter, which is a whole nother topic that hopefully one day will be reformed. But that's the deal. So if you have, so how do you protect your assets? How do you title them? How do you deed them? Okay, so let's talk about that right now. We're going to dive into that real quick here. So when you buy a property, if you got financing, you probably had to get it in your name or your spouse's name, right? Something like that together. And the lender doesn't really love to have LLCs because how is that, how are you able to prove income, assets, debt income ratio, all this stuff, right? So typically it closes in that. Now, for asset protection, you want to get that out of your name, okay, for that rental property. You want to get it out of your name and deed it into an entity. Now, again, not legal advice by any stretch of the imagination, but LLCs are a great option to put the property in. And then the question becomes, when you do that, then you just got to do it for what's best for your asset protection. If you ever want to refinance it, you may have to pull it out of the LLC to refinance it in the future, that sort of thing. But you want to put it in the LLC for your protection. Now, there's a couple things a couple different ways that should be probably talked about and structured. Now, when it's in the LLC, it should be by itself, right? If you have one LLC with multiple properties, you're kind of opening yourself up to the exposure of one of those properties if there is an issue, unfortunately, tagging all of the
Affecting
income.
all the other.
Yep.
Yep.
And the equity of all three properties that are in that one LLC or whatever it may be. Okay. So it should be separated. And then on top of that, you should have books and records. You should have an account of every single LLC separately. Meeting minutes. And there's a host of things that kind of go into that to do it correctly. You should have an account that that can be tracked to that LLC as well. Paid rent, expenses, etc. Now, when you go to file taxes, may you have to do a K-1 for some of these? If you have a partnership, yes. But if you don't have a partnership, many of these LLCs can be regarded as a disregarded entity, and therefore you don't have to worry about hopefully doing more fees from your CPA because it can flow right into your Schedule E still on your personal returns. Again, not tax or legal advice. Check with your CPA, tax preparer, and your attorney. Okay. But you should have separation of these assets in their specific entities. Now, when that happens, who are the members and managers of the LLC? Well, every state can be a little different, right? In terms of manager member, member managed, member, all these things. Okay. So check with your local laws and your attorney, of course, right? But generally speaking, it's good to have, obviously, you can have just yourself as being the member or the manager. Typically, the manager has no stake in it. They're just managing it. They can have literally no equity, no stake in the LLC potentially. They're just set to manage it, and the members are the ones who have the voting rights and the stake and the ownership, et cetera, et cetera. That's typically how it works. Okay, in that scenario, you might want to have yourself as maybe a member because maybe you're the 100% owner, and you maybe have another manager, maybe you don't. You could have many law firms provide services which they'll have a statutory agent or a manager that will be on the LLC for you, and maybe even with a different address, mailing address, so they don't even know where your house is that you live as well. So you could do that. Another thing you could do is if you have a trust, you could have the trust be a member as well as yourself as an individual being a member or manager. If the trust is set up right, then you can have yourself just be the manager and have your trust own the whole thing. But does a trust provide additional asset protection? It does not, okay? Unless you have some special kind of trust, right? The general trust typically does not. And so the asset protection comes from the LLC, the entity that you have it in. Now, what I did is I chose to go one step further, okay? At the end of the day, what you want to do is try to protect any lawsuits from a charging order and piercing the corporate veil, right? That's what you're trying to protect your assets from, okay? Now, what I did, I went one step further. We have a trust set up. I went into another state. I won't name it. Doesn't matter. You can figure out your asset protection your own way from that standpoint. But I went to a different state and I created a a charging order protection entity. Okay, and I then made one of the members of that entity the trust. Okay, we have set up. So now we have the ownership correctly. We have that, and then I made that out of state um, master umbrella LLC, if you will, a member of the individual LLCs that hold title of the specific address. So it's going on one layer more deep to make sure we have separation, we have protection. And a lot of times because lawsuits are frivolous and very, they're stretching to find something, right? Like the example of the kid on the bike.
Yeah.
Um, if they see that you have and some entities and entities owned by entities and blah blah blah. A lot of times, because these attorneys are doing it for free. A lot of times, the person bringing the lawsuit is stretching, and they don't necessarily believe they have a case either. They just want to see if they can they want to test it. But if they see that the attorney won't do it for free because the attorney goes, I'm not going to waste my time because this is a 50-50 chance at best, then that could negate the lawsuit even from occurring. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Because if they feel like it's just in Joe Blow's name, 123 Main Street, Phoenix, Arizona is owned by Joe Blow. Well, I don't know what Joe has, but we're about to find out. Let's file a
Yeah.
lawsuit and see what goes on, right? And maybe Joe has nothing except that property, but that's something, you know?
Mhm.
And so people, unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And unfortunately, we're one of the few countries in the world where if you bring about a lawsuit and it's dismissed, there's no harm in you doing that except for whatever it costs for your time and energy with your attorney. And attorneys are willing to do it for free because there may be a payout on the back end through a contingency, right? So until they change that to where the person who brings lawsuit will suffer damages if they are found the lawsuit to be dismissed and not accurate and legit, what's to stop someone from doing it? And therefore, you open up a can of worms and you have to deal with all this nonsense. So but we can't change that, unfortunately, as an individual. As a citizen of America, I can't change that. With my votes and this, that, it's a part of it. But like, unfortunately, that's a big, big topic. So, in the meantime, best you can do is provide asset protection. And I'll say this. I'll say one more thing: is there's been stories I've heard from people who have owned maybe one rental house. Something bad happened, like like the kid on the bike, or worse, or whatever. Just something happened, and it caused a huge inconvenience, and or maybe it cost them a bunch of equity or money or whatever it may be. And so, you know what the attitude then at that point is? I'm not doing this. This is for the birds. I'm not ever doing that again and put myself out there.
Very
Well,
discouraging. Yeah.
yeah, it's discouraging. And that sucks because the reality is yes, that may have been a really bad deal, whether it was legit or not, but you had it maybe titled in just your name. And so you're just kind of exposed, unfortunately, whether it's right or wrong. And so you gotta take the time, which is a lot of time, by the way, and effort and money to set it up correctly to hopefully have yourself protected so that you don't have these crazy things happen to you. At least they don't follow through with them. Crazy things can happen no matter what you do, but the follow through on that
You have some of the
yeah,
layers of protection. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
So
But it doesn't get to the heart.
yeah, and guys, there's law firms out there that specialize in this asset protection and forming, estate planning for trust and all that stuff is one thing, but asset protection specifically is a whole other thing. And there's attorneys out there, law firms that specialize in this. Because again, this is not legal advice by any stretch of the imagination. It's just generalities of what some experiences that I've had
Mhm.
and people I know have had. And I just encourage you today to take the time to look into it and maybe take action by calling a law firm, an attorney, whatever it may be. Because here's why, guys. The reason why I know most people don't take time to do this is because for the same reason that as a realtor for 21 years, unfortunately, one of the things that happen in life is death. And man, the amount of people that you think have it all together, or at least have the financial means to have it all together, sometimes don't. Many cases don't. Meaning like a simple trust. So now this person who had the means to go, get a trust done, now is subject to probate, right? And yes, if you have a will done, you could be subject to probate still, depending on what state you're in, all this fun stuff. Or maybe you didn't even have a will done, and chances are it's pretty obvious, that you're still married, or maybe like you have a kid or whatever, right?
Mhm.
That probably the person that they wanted to have get it will get it, but you have to go through this whole rigmarole, and it's up to a court now to determine the fate of of what you maybe worked so hard to achieve and gather when you were alive, right? So you want it to go to the right places, whether it's charity or your son or your daughter or whatever it is, right? And so take the time. And I know people don't because I see it happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person. They didn't have a trust? No. What? They never just never took the time. It wasn't a
Well,
matter
it's
of
something that
funds.
a lot of time people don't want to think about, right? So it's
Yep.
like, oh, I'll put it off.
I'll put it off.
And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You
It
can't,
doesn't.
you
It's
never know
crazy.
when
Yeah.
putting it off is going to be, you're not going to get the chance to do that.
Yeah.
So, all of that to be said, do it now. We talked about how, like we said, we have so many episodes about how you get investment properties, how like all of the work and money and time that goes into it. Um, you're doing it for a reason, right? So you need to protect it, right? Just you wouldn't buy a house and not have a security system or a locked door or whatever else, right? Take the time and do it right, protect it the right way. And yeah, again, check with your state, your trusted financial advisor, your trusted legal advisor, whatever it is. But this is something that if you haven't thought about, definitely look into it and start putting in place some sort of plan of protection for your assets.
No doubt. Do it today. Get
And
started.
if anybody has any questions about this or any other real estate topic, investing, selling, open houses, right? Kelly, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. By all means, hit me up on Instagram, DM me at Kelly Cook Homes. And if you want the recommendation of a good attorney, let me know. I'd be happy to get that in your court so you can just fire off and get that process started. And by the way, a lot of these conversations like this happen in community. And we do have a community. I always want to make sure our listeners know we have a community called Connecting Real. Go to connectingrealaz.com where we have a Zoom call and or an in-person meeting on a weekly basis. So real estate can be lonely, be on an island. So again, I'm going to plug that again, connectingrealaz.com, 9 a.m. every Tuesday, local time.
All right. We will see you all next week. Bye, Kelly.
See you guys.